Chapter 1.
De'Ara sat back in her bunk and put her pad down. She couldn't focus on it after her meeting with Brax. Well, it wasn't just her brother, it was everything. Days spent working long shifts, while their stolen ship, the Fortune, burned for the warp tunnel to the Galapagos system. Or, as Nova preferred to say, their rightfully recovered ship. The Fortune was a Corvette-class ship, but she was old. Once, a long time ago, some private security company had bought her and used her in their private fleet. She wasn't Navy quality, as Jana often pointed out, but that didn't help De'Ara appreciate the ship. It was big, pretty well armed, and even had a small hangar that the former lieutenant's interceptor now sat in. Brax was the chief engineer. Acting chief engineer, he said, since he didn't want the job long-term. He was all about starship design and flying them, though, just like their mom had been. The Fortune, or misfortune as he had whispered to her, was in rough shape. At least from his perspective. The main engine was a fusion drive, and he said it needed a couple solid weeks of downtime to refit and recalibrate it. The reactor wasn't any better off, and he promised if they ever tried to put it under a full load, it might stop working altogether and never work again. Or, as he put it, shit the bed and them with it. The biggest problem in De'Ara's mind wasn't the engine, the reactor, or the unfamiliar ship. It wasn't even that they were all outlaws and criminals from the Terran Navy, although maybe it should have been. No, her problem was the lack of crew. There were 4 of them for a ship designed to need at least twice that for a skeleton crew. Nova, their eccentric captain, didn't want to hear about it either. She was so happy with herself, she was practically hanging off the bow of the ship, screaming, "I'm on top of the universe," into the vacuum. Never mind that it wasn't possible to scream in a vacuum. Nova would have found a way because she didn't seem to care about the laws of physics or nature. Hell, if she had the need, that woman would find a way to argue that math was wrong and leave De'Ara wondering if maybe the captain was right. What she needed was some rest. A solid chunk of sleep that wasn't plagued by worries or dreams or strange noises in the still unfamiliar ship. The Leda, her family's freighter, had made all sorts of pings and pops and creaks, but she'd grown up there. The Fortune sang a different tune she was struggling to get used to. Instead of sleeping, she'd been turning to studying, trying to learn the Fortune systems and design, or even keeping up on the latest feeds she had on new communication standards. She'd also been listening to the streams for any extra interest in the events in the Thigard system. It had been almost 2 full weeks since they'd taken the Fortune from the research station. Commander Lynx must have gotten their comm systems back up now, but all was quiet. There weren't any warnings or bounties out for them. There hadn't been anything, and that mysterious absence left her more anxious than if she'd had the entire Terran Navy after them. She glanced at her pad and saw the time. She had less than 4 hours to be back on the bridge. She'd looked like hell again, and Nova would give her a hard time about not getting rest when she needed it. The woman didn't understand. De'Ara couldn't just turn her brain off. What you need is a good deep digging. Problem is, the only one that can give it to you is Brax. I'd turn my head the other way and not say a thing, of course. A girl needs what a girl needs, and if the only man that give it to her is her brother, well, so be it. De'Ara had stared at Nova like she'd grown a second head.
Don't look at me like that. I'd let you have your way with him.
Brax isn't yours to lend out for favors.
Nova grinned at that.
So you admit you're interested in how much thrust our engineers got?
De'Ara gagged.
No. God, what's wrong with you?
Nova cackled and then said,
Captain, what's wrong with you, Captain?
Captain, you're a very sick woman.
Nova never lost that twinkle in her eye.
I've got some toys you can borrow. I swear, when I was first mate, that was my biggest problem. Nobody to fuck. Oi, sure, there were lots of bodies, and they'd have had dicks hard as steel at the chance to spread my legs, but what a mess that would be. I don't mean the wet spot, neither.
Diera had groaned and tried to ignore her. Ignoring Nova was like pretending stars didn't exist.
Imagine all the people fussing because Johnny got his dick wet because the XO favors him. I'd have to fuck 'em all on a schedule or something, and then they'd be killing each other because there ain't no man alive willing to share pussy this good.
Oh my. Please stop.
Her pleas fell on deaf ears.
What do you think? I've got a bin full of them. All clean too, I promise. Stop by and see if I got any you like.
Not right now. Never, in fact.
Suit yourself. Don't forget though, in case you need it.
Diera shook her head at the memory of the conversation they'd had a few days ago. She'd thought about it a few times now, even though she didn't want to. Stars, was that what she needed? Some sort of distraction or, relief?
No way in the deepest, darkest space would I use one of her toys.
She shook her head. She wasn't in the mood for that sort of thing, and to get there, she'd need something. Someone, rather, but who? She'd fantasized about celebrities in the past, or people she'd met on stations. She couldn't think of anyone that made her belly flutter, though. For that matter, she couldn't even call up an image in her mind. She'd been through so much, and had been so focused for so long now. What even turned her on in the first place? She reached for her datapad and then frowned. The captain would see all stream requests and who made them. There was no way she wanted Nova knowing she was looking for that.
Fuck. Or not fuck. I just cock-blocked myself.
Then again, Nova had told her she needed to take care of business, encouraged her, and even offered to help in her own way. But knowledge was power, and Nova knew it. She'd hold it over Diera and use it to embarrass her or something. Diera cursed under her breath again and slid down on her bed. She slipped her fingers under her pants and over the pokey stubble growing back in. She needed to deal with that too, but later, obviously. For now, she might as well have been rubbing her fingers on the arm of her couch on the bridge. That wasn't entirely new to her, but it wasn't what she wanted. She needed some lube to get started, but she didn't have any, and she sure as hell wasn't going to ask Nova if she could borrow some. Diera checked her pad again and sighed. It was going to be a long 4 hours.
Chapter 2.
When Diera left her cabin, she didn't bother shutting the door. There was nothing in it worth taking. Hell, nothing worth keeping either. She had the clothes on her back and some other outfits she'd scavenged from the now empty bunks that had belonged to the prior crew. Sadly, there hadn't been many women among them, and none had been as tall as she was. Being born and raised in low G made her tall and skinny. Taller than Brax even, by a few centimeters. She preferred to think of herself as lean or lanky, not skinny. She'd been passionate about staying fit and working out, but that seemed like a lifetime ago. Only a few months at this point, but still, it had been a busy few months. She opened the bridge door and walked into the sound of Brax arguing with the captain again. She smiled. Some things never changed.
Aren't going to last if we keep this up.
Brax finished saying and turned to see her staring at him. He nodded and turned back to Nova.
What's not going to last?
The engines. They might just rebel, pick themselves up, and walk right off the fucking ship.
That's not.
What's the problem?
Diera cut her big brother off. She was the second in command on the ship, after all.
We burned for the tunnel to get here quick and.
You said we could.
Nova pointed out his words with that damn gleam in her eye.
Yeah, well, I was pressured into it. We pushed further than we should and now we're burning even harder to slow down.
You did say we could. You said the artificial gravity might be struggling to compensate too.
Too much of this, and I might need to start buying bras.
Nova reached up and cupped her large breasts in her hands through her shirt.
Can't let my girls down.
Brax was distracted for a second by her words and gesture. He jerked his head away and saw Diera smirking. Any chance Nova had, she did her best to draw her brother's eye. She loved teasing him then again. Dara was pretty sure she'd love fucking him too. That thought erased the smirk on her face.
Yeah, well, it's like everything else here, out of tune and running on borrowed time. It's pulling too much power and I can't promise the reactor will be able to provide it. Or the lines running to it.
No AG sounds like heaven to me. We're all running on not much sleep and extra weight means extra tired.
No AG means we get slammed into the floor. Instead of weighing 60 kilos, you'll be weight over 400. It'll feel like you've got the ship sitting on your chest even though there's nothing there.
Hey, I dropped a couple kilos the last month or 3. But, yeah, I get it. Don't let that happen.
I'm trying.
Doing a damn fine job of it too.
Brax gave up, shook his head, and seemed to notice that Nova was in the pilot's couch instead of the captain's.
Where's Nady at?
Jana's off duty. She and the captain are taking turns at the stick. Sometimes she spells me at comms and sensors too.
Oh, so what? Is she in her bunk sleeping or something?
Why the interest? You have a thing for military women. You like short hair on girls.
What? No! I mean, it's fine. I'm just wondering if it's smart to leave her alone is all.
She's in it as deep as the rest of us. Deeper, since she was an officer and all.
Alright, well, I'm going to go make sure we don't blow up or lose power and end up pancaked to the floor.
Noble causes, Mr. Brax. Best get to it. Let us know if we're going to die.
He shook his head on the way off the bridge.
Your brother needs to loosen up.
I think we all do.
Nova laughed.
I know what you need.
So you keep telling me.
Wait till we get to Gal Prime. So many choices you won't know who to pick. Or maybe you don't settle for one. Get a few.
What?
Might leave you walking funny for a day or two. But trust me, there's nothing better than having the right team to properly fuck you so thoroughly you can't see straight. And if you're paying for it, you don't need to worry about them. Their job is to make your reactor go critical.
I think I need to call in sick or something.
Nova grinned.
No sick time here, Blue Eyes. You got a boo-boo, you walk it off.
Having 400 kilos sitting on my chest is a little more than a boo-boo.
Just got to build up to it is all.
Build up to it? This isn't like using heavier weights each workout.
True, but I'd start with something lighter on my chest. Say, what do you figure Brax weighs?
Chapter 3.
Brax watched the chamber temperature drop out of the orange shading on the chart, and, for the first time in days, he allowed himself to take a full breath. The readings continued to cool, confirming that they weren't going to die in a sudden and violent explosion. He waited a little longer and then began to process to shut down everything on the reactor except the cooling system. The pellet in use would need to be disposed of, but there was no way around that with the speed Nova had demanded. Content that things were well in hand, he wiped the stress sweat from his brow and turned away from the engine controls and walked over to look at the reactor's control system. It was overburdened too, although with the reactor down and the engines offline, the extra cooling wasn't as necessary, so it was starting to ease up. Brax shook his head and turned away from control room. They couldn't do this again. It was too dangerous. She had to see that. He had to make her see. 2 ladders, and 110 meters later, Brax stood outside the door of the captain's cabin. He tapped on the panel and waited. The door opened a few seconds later to reveal Nova standing in the doorway. Her hair was wet, and she grabbed her robe to close it tighter.
Oh,
Nova blushed and then smiled at him.
thought you'd be your sister.
I'm not.
I'm getting ready to head into the station.
Nova said, as his hesitation let her recover her confidence.
You need something, Blue. Maybe see something you like?
I needed to talk to you.
Mission accomplished.
He blushed.
That's not what I meant.
She winked at him and backed away.
Come on in then.
What? You're...
Oh, relax. I'm not going to drop my robe and jump on you.
She moved over to the open drawer with some of her clothes secured in it.
Maybe after we get back from Gal Prime, but not now.
That's not look. You really need to understand the strain you're putting on the ship.
She turned to look at him over her shoulder.
Are you calling me fat, Blue?
What? No! I mean the engines. The reactor too, because it has to provide power to everything, and that includes the cooling pumps.
Then fix it. We're in dock. You've got some time.
I need parts, a lot of them. And people better suited to know what they're doing, because I don't.
You said you could handle the engines.
Engines, sure, I know the theory and most of the processes and hardware needed. I even helped my mom do repairs on the Litas a few times, but it wasn't fusion, it was a well drive. You know, a gravity drive that accelerates the ship like it's falling downhill constantly.
And thank the stars for them. Easy pickings using those as long as they haven't gotten up to speed yet.
Brax clamped his mouth shut. That was how the Fortune had caught the Lita. They'd just come through a warp tunnel, and the Fortune picked them up on a scan and was after them before they could get up to speed.
We're looking for crew. I'll keep an eye out for someone that can help you out.
Great, but we can't push the ship as hard as you've been pushing her. Core temps were in the red zone for the last 8 hours. We could have been forced to dump the reactor any second.
She studied a shirt and folded it and put it back.
What do you need to fix it?
The reactor needs a tear down and rebuild, but that's a week of time by trained crew. 2 to 3 for me by myself. If I could get the cooling system fixed, that would buy us time, but that will take days too. Maybe weeks.
What's wrong with it?
Needs more coolant, for one. But adding coolant doesn't fix the leaks. A patch is a temporary fix. A few dozen patches is a colander.
She turned to stare at him.
A what?
Brax forced his attention back up above the gap in her robe that showed off the decadent valley between her breasts.
A colander. It's a bowl used for cooking with holes in it that you can drain liquid through.
Oh, right. I thought you said something else.
Brax didn't push his luck.
Point is, a bunch of tiny leaks adds up over time. Put more coolant in and it just adds pressure and it still ends up leaking out. Maybe it blows a bigger hole in the system somewhere too because of the added pressure.
She grunted and pulled out a different shirt.
What do you need?
To fix it? A couple 100 liters of coolant grade 6, I think. Then vacuum tubing, 80 meters of 40 mil and another 100 meters of 20 mil tubing. Remember, vacuum rated, not mil-spec.
Nova nodded.
I'll see what I can do.
Really?
She turned, her robe flashing a little more than cleavage. He wasn't sure if he'd seen what he thought he'd seen, but he felt his cheeks heat up anyhow.
Blue, the Fortune's my baby. She can't take care of me, of all of us, unless we take care of her too. My predecessor was a cheap fuck that thought she'd run forever and didn't pay no, never mind when someone said otherwise. I got access to some ship's funds, and I'll use it where we need it. But once that's gone, we're working to put food in our bellies.
I understand that.
Do you? It means doing what we do best.
Brax swallowed.
Finding ships with fat bellies that can't run fast enough or fight us off.
I know what you mean.
Pirating, Blue. Taking what they got and making it ours to use or sell.
He stared at her.
I get it, Captain.
She smiled at him.
Good. Come with me then.
What?
Join me. Otherwise, I'm as like to get 20 meters of coolant as a black hose.
Brax sighed.
Go get ready. Airlock in 20. And tell that sexy sister of yours to come help me.
Help you? With what?
The perfect outfit ain't gonna pick itself now, is it?
Brax stared at her a moment longer, shook his head, and walked away. Nova grinned and licked her lips.
Chapter 4.
You needed me?
Diarra asked from the captain's still open doorway. Nova spun around, shirt held up in front of her.
This one?
Nova asked, and then put the blue dress down and picked up a green one.
Or this?
You can't dress yourself?
Say I offer you a choice. Your own ship, an exec condo in the station of your choice, or a deposit in your accounts. Same amount, but you have to pick which one you want.
I don't know. I'd need to think about it and see.
Right.
Nova picked up a pink dress.
You pick the one that looks the best for you.
Like which dress to wear? Like which dress I should wear to convince people to join my crew? I like the green one, but maybe pink is the way to go? Or blue? Does blue look like I'm unstoppable and bound for riches?
Diarra laughed.
Pink says join my crew because I'm going to have a wardrobe malfunction every 30 seconds.
Nova held the pink dress up and nodded.
It does need a lot of that sticky stuff to keep my tits from slipping.
I'd be more worried about you flashing your underwear.
With dress like this, you don't wear underwear.
Diarra gasped, and Nova winked at her.
So pink is out.
Nova pouted, and then tossed it on her bed. She picked up green and blue and held them up side by side.
Green or blue?
Diarra hesitated and then said,
Blue.
Nova looked at it and then stared at Diarra. She grinned.
It matches your eyes.
That's not why I picked it. It's more professional looking, I think. Try it on.
Oi.
Nova reached for her robe's belt. Diarra squeaked and turned around. Then she noticed the door was still open, and she squeaked again and jumped forward to shut it.
Relax, Blue. I don't got nothing you don't have.
Actually, you do.
What?
Boobs.
You got boobs too, sweetie.
Mine are bumps on a frequent scan. Yours are more like spikes.
Nova laughed.
Never heard of tits talked about that way before.
Yeah. Well, I was pleased because I've got bigger ones than Jana does, and now you stole that from me.
Your brother has bigger tits than Navy.
Diarra laughed with her.
You might be right.
You can turn around.
Diarra turned around and saw Nova tugging the blue dress into place. She frowned and stepped forward.
Hang on.
Diarra grabbed the soft fabric and helped reposition it on Nova's shoulders, waist, and hips without stretching or creasing it.
There, beautiful.
Nova flashed her a smile, at least as bright as her name.
Thanks.
You need a hollow vanity. I had a small one before.
Been a while since I thought about something like that.
She shrugged, and her breasts bounced in the dress.
Maybe you should wear a bra with it?
Got one built in. You should see them bounce without this on.
I'm good.
Diarra felt the captain's underwear when she adjusted the dress, but she couldn't see any lines in it. As slinky and smooth as the dress looked, it was sturdier than it looked.
Don't worry, I haven't had enough drinks to offer. Hair now.
You're recruiting, not going on a fucking date.
Taking Brax with me. Might be a bit of both.
What? No. I'm the XO, the first mate. I'm the one that deals with the crew.
My ship, my crew.
But we get to vet them, remember?
That was before. Now you're no better than any of us criminals.
Diarra fumed for a moment.
Well, fine, but you said crew was off limits. You couldn't mess around with anyone under you.
Didn't say I couldn't. I said I wouldn't. Sides. That's when I was the first mate.
Captain can do anything she wants?
Damn right. It's my ship. I make or break the rules.
That's not fair.
You're a fucking pirate, Blue. I like you, but don't think I like you more than I like me. And don't think the universe is going to be fair to anyone. You should have learned that by now. Lost your fam, lost your freedom, lost it all except what I gave you back. You want more. You should be showing how thankful you are for what I gave you.
Diarra shut her mouth and, after fighting back the need to scream, she nodded. She turned away and reached to open the door before she realized she probably shouldn't just storm off.
Is that all, Captain?
Nova smiled.
Lighten up. I got nothing but good things planned for us. Work with me and we get there faster. Work against me. Well, I'm really starting to take a shine to you, Blue. I'd hate to lose you and have to find someone new to buddy up to.
Diarra froze and glanced back at her.
Is that an ultimatum?
Not on purpose. But I suppose everything is. Same applies to me. I run the fortune into a moon and treat my crew like shit. I expect mutiny and a long float are my next holiday.
Diarra relaxed a little and nodded.
That makes sense. I'm sorry.
Blue, you're my number 2. I expect you to support anything I say out there. In here, you tell me when something about me stinks. Breath, pits, whatever.
De'Ara nodded.
I'm disappointed, that's all. I wanted to check out Gal Prime. Last time I was here I couldn't really do much.
Nova frowned.
Sorry. You're right, but I don't see a way to change it. I need Blue, the other Blue, to help me screen recruits. Make sure they know what he needs them to.
And I need to stay here to keep an eye on Navy.
And the ship. The Fortune's going to have a brand new reward on her soon. Probably already does. Gal Prime Station won't care, but others, they might.
I get it. Sucks, but I understand.
Next time.
Next time?
Next station, you and me, Blue. We're gonna paint it. Huh. We'll paint in blue.
De'Ara smiled and shook her head.
You know, you could come up with different nicknames for us.
No fun in that.
Nova turned and pulled out a drawer with several pair of boots and shoes in them.
Now which pair of shit kickers go with this to say I'm sexy as fuck, but I'll fuck up your sex if you disobey?
Chapter 5.
Nova groaned while they waited for the next body to join them at their recruiting booth.
And we still have to go shopping after this.
Brax sniffed in the smell of sweat, oil, and Nova's fading perfume. The recycling filters in the employment agency were long overdue on being replaced. For that matter, the entire system was probably due for an overhaul. He couldn't even feel any current of air movement.
Starseekers, what a stupid name.
We might find our next star here.
Nova rolled her eyes.
First time I ever came to a place like this. Mostly crew changes are arranged. That or somebody knows somebody and words get out.
Brax glanced at her sitting beside him and tried not to focus on the swell of her chest in the clinging blue dress she wore.
Why not do that this time?
Lost everybody but me. Makes things look shady.
Shady for a pirate?
Shut your word, maker. Different kind of shady. The kind that says you turn on your cousins.
Cousins?
Right. Kind of fam, kind of not. Distant enough, like 2 systems away. You know they're there and you gotten in with them, but that don't mean you're swapping spit.
Got it, not kissing cousins. So much clearer now.
She scowled at him and then saw the woman moving through the crowd towards them. Her platinum hair was shaved on the side, spiked on the top, and looked to be long in the back. The spikes had frost blue tips to them. The ends of her hair matched the bright blue of her eyes. Nova liked her immediately.
Oi, check this one.
The woman met their eyes and lifted her chin. It was either a gesture of greeting or defiance. She moved to their booth and stopped at the end of it.
Hi. You recruiting for the Fortune?
We've got a few openings left.
Brax had to fight to keep his laugh contained.
I'm Captain Nova. This is Brax. He's my engineer.
Acting engineer.
The applicant slid into the opposite side of the booth.
I'm Jaida Masita, but they call me Bull. What happened to the last engineer?
He blew up.
Jaida winced.
Your ship survived?
Wasn't on the Fortune.
Nova jerked her thumb at Brax.
It was on his ship.
Long story.
I'm okay. So what do you want to know?
Bull?
All the things you could ask and you want to know that?
Well, yeah.
Jaida reached up and lightly flicked the septum ring hanging from her nose.
Oh, sorry. I didn't even think about, bulls having those. Never been on a planet more than a half day to pick up or drop off a load.
Actually, I got the ring after they started calling me that. I get stubborn and determined when I got a problem I need to fix.
Long as it's the right kind of problem, that ain't a bad thing. What can you do?
Anything you need, Captain. I can fly, handle comms and sensors, admin details, cook, clean, handle maintenance, or whatever. I'm no engineer, but I can help with ship systems too.
Like one thing more than another?
Don't matter really. I'm not afraid to get dirty, it washes off. Not afraid to stay clean either. Whatever you need me to do.
What about action?
Action? What kind of action? You asking if I'll run into a fire or away from it?
Sort of.
What blue means is,
Blue? Sorry, I thought he was Brax.
Nova waved her interruption away.
that's what we call him, blue eyes and all, same as you.
Mine aren't real. Bionic, I can change him.
Oh, anything else like that?
She held up her hand to display an induction pad on her palm.
Data interface pad, that's it. Rest is original parts.
Okay, so what Mr. Brax wants to know is if you're a coward.
She stiffened her petite frame in the booth.
Excuse me?
Nova grinned.
Say we run across a ship that's carrying disputed goods that we need to repossess. You got a problem suiting up and doing the job?
Jada considered the question for a few seconds before she answered.
I don't own a gun.
That's it.
We don't want to hurt or kill anyone.
Nova sent him a glance that told him, in no uncertain terms, to shut the fuck up.
Pretty much. I know how to use them, just don't happen to own one at the moment.
Nova nodded.
So are you looking for a job? Seems like this place could use plenty of work from someone that can handle anything.
It's better if I don't spend too much more time here or on any station. I like to move around a lot. I figure I belong on a ship.
Nova raised an eyebrow.
Why's that?
Jada opened her mouth, shut it, then took a moment to lick her lips.
I have a history of not putting up with the ass fuckers in security. Seems every cops thinks they own the place and sooner or later, they rub me wrong. They say something, I say something. They try something. I don't let him, it doesn't end well.
Ass fuckers?
I don't mean nothing by it. If you're into it, I mean. Just seems like every rent-a-cop I run into is the kind of person that gets off on that sort of thing. Dirty too, if you know what I mean, and no lube.
I am so wishing I hadn't asked now.
Nova cackled and then forced herself to look Jaya in the eyes.
No cops or security on the Fortune, but are you good with taking orders?
Oh, yes, Captain. If I put myself on your ship to do a job, I'm accepting you and your officers are in charge. It's the space for brains sec guards that I never agreed to that got no right to tell me what I can and can't do.
That's good. Real good. We could use someone diverse like you.
I could use a job that appreciates my diversity. What's the pay?
Standard rates, paid on a monthly cycle. Standard month, not anything tied to a system. Plus bonuses when we earn one.
Bonuses? Like for repossessing disputed cargo?
Nova grinned wide enough to flash her teeth.
That's right.
Jetta leaned forward and reached her hand across the table.
I'm your girl, Captain.
Nova shook her hand.
Welcome to the Fortune. We'll be here for a couple more hours and then we've got some shopping to do. We hope to ship out tomorrow. Soon you show up at our dock, the sooner you start getting paid.
All right if I beat you there.
Nova laughed.
That's just fine. Ask for Diera, she's my second. She'll square you away.
Jayetta stood up.
Yes, Captain.
She looked at Brax and nodded.
Thank you, too, Mr. Brax.
Brax smiled back at her and then turned to see Nova's eyes gleaming as Jayetta walked away.
What?
Told you Mr. Brax has a ring to it.
Brax rolled his eyes.
Think she can help you with your refits?
Probably. She's a tiny thing. Between her and Jana, I'm not sure who would win a contest for eating less.
She can probably squeeze into some tiny places. Don't be getting any ideas about squeezing into her tiny places either.
Brax coughed.
What? I never.
Oi, here comes another one.
Brax looked and sighed.
I'm starting to feel some sort of way.
What?
If you're going to have an all-female crew.
Nova laughed.
Don't worry. I definitely need some eye candy. Besides, too many women working together and we get bitchy. With only you for them all to compete for. No, thank you.
Brax didn't realize his jaw was hanging open until the next candidate stopped by their table. She stood almost as tall as Brax when she forced herself straight, but was quick to hunch over again. Her brown eyes had a dark and haunted look to them, and her skin seemed to hang from her middle-aged bones.
Recruit this the fortune?
Brax kept his face a mask, but inside he groaned. Jayetta had stood out. The others, like this one, were forgettable. Or so he hoped if Nova hired them, he'd have to work with them. He'd much rather forget they even existed. The interview, along with the two that followed, were exhausting. The applicants were bottom feeders without any current skills, or in one case, too spaced out on something to answer their questions, let alone be reliable. Brax was beyond the point of caring by the time Nova finally gave up and called it quits.
We got one person, another that.
No. We don't need another pilot. Especially one that convinced he's the best pilot the universe has ever seen.
Wasn't willing to pitch in elsewhere, come to think of it.
My guess is he probably wouldn't spend much time flying the ship either.
Well, we start with one, we'll get more.
No way we're leaving tomorrow. Not if I'm tearing out the coolant lines and replacing them.
You've got help now.
He snorted.
Even with all of you helping, it's not a one-day job.
Look, Blue, I get it. She needs a full body rub to keep her in the mood, but sometimes, no, a lot of times, we get in the mood as it's happening.
You're not making any sense.
I am, you're just not listening. Point is, I don't like staying in one spot too long. I haven't checked the menu yet, but we're bound to look fat and juicy soon enough.
Check the what?
Bounty boards.
He struggled for a moment before asking,
Why didn't you just say that?
Thought I did. Seriously, Blue, you need to keep up. I didn't peg you as one of those men that have situational hearing loss. The situation being when someone tells you something you don't want to hear.
I never.
You're kind of cute when you're backed in a corner. Now come on, let's go buy the stuff you need to fix my baby up one piece at a time while we're on the move.
Brax had no choice but to follow her out of Starseekers. He closed his mouth on their way to a refitting shop and let himself be distracted by the other shops and people in the station's concourse. There were stores selling robots, toys, weapons, armor, travel, and tourist packages, amazing vacations, furniture and bedding, prosthetics, and much more. He counted 5 clinics alone, with only one existing for urgent care needs, and the others catering to either enhancements or cosmetic upgrades. The people were even more diverse than the shops. The majority were human, but he'd never seen as many members of so many different species in one station before. He had more than enough to keep him distracted while they walked. So distracted, in fact, that when a couple of kids ran through the crowd and bumped into him, he didn't think anything of it. What did strike him as odd was when Nova lunged after them and, in 3 sprinting steps, caught the arm of girl that had struck him and yanked her to a stop. The girl let out a screech, as her shoulder was nearly jerked out of its socket and her feet kept going. She hit the deck on her knees and still couldn't get away from the clutching pirate.
Give it back.
The girl's lip quivered for a second, and tears filled her eyes. She started crying, which turned to sobbing so loud everyone was watching.
Nova.
Nova drew the pistol strapped beneath the bottom of her dress on her thigh and pointed it at the girl.
I know what the security guards will do to a pretty thing like you. Better I shoot you now than hand you over.
What the fuck are you doing?
Brax looked at the dirty urchin and did a double take. Under the dirt, grease, and matted strings of greasy hair, she might actually be pretty. The girl's sobs cut short. Her eyes widened, real far filled them.
I been there. Pretty. You got no one they can lean on, so they'll take their price out of your flesh. Then, when they had their fun and nobody wants what's left over, or what they put in you that's growing for the next 9 months, you'll end up feeding the shrooms.
Nova!
Nova ignored him and stared at the girl. The girl licked her lips, glanced at the crowd that was watching, and then reached up under her shirt and tugged at something. Nova's grip on her pistol tightened. The waif pulled out Brax's datapad and held it out.
What do you stole that?
Brax patted himself down and realized she'd snatched it out of his pocket. He took it from her, verified it was his, and then held it tight in his hands. Nova let go of her arm, and then, after holding her at gunpoint a few seconds longer, she holstered her pistol.
You picked a good mark, kid, but you didn't pay attention to who he was with.
Hey!
The girl twisted and sprang up with the flexibility and energy of youth. She shot through the crowd, pushing people out of the way and disappearing as fast as possible.
What that I didn't even feel her take that from me.
Nova smiled at him.
She knew how to pick 'em.
What's that mean?
Means you're a fucking tourist. Look at all the pretty aliens and stores and, oh, is that a vibrator with tentacles and a gravity distortion field?
Brax snapped his head around to where she was looking.
What?
See, that's what I mean. Focus, Blue, eyes and mind on the prize.
Realizing she'd tricked him, he turned back to her.
Huh. Huh. I get it.
She winked at him.
Good, our next stop's right there.
The vibrator store?
She grinned.
We can ask and see.
The store didn't cater to sex toys, though. It was called SSC Starship Supply Company. They passed by a human man that was almost a full head taller than Brax on their way through the doorway. The man turned and followed them in, but kept his distance and checked out some displays. Nova went to the counter where the store's owner was flipping through screens on his pad.
Oi, can you help?
He looked her up and down and shrugged.
Maybe. What are you after?
Nova turned to Brax.
Here's your chance, Chief.
Chief?
Chief Engineer.
Acting.
Brax corrected her and proceeded to reach for his pad. He realized when he felt an empty pocket that was still in his hand.
Wow.
Brax did his best to ignore the heat in his face and looked over the notes he'd put in his datapad.
I need 250 liters of grade 6 coolant, 80 meters of vacuum-rated 40mm tubing, and 100 meters of vacuum-rates 20mm tubing.
Don't forget pumps, clamps, and plugs.
Brax turned to look at him and nodded.
Good idea. 2 pumps and maybe 30 clamps for each size. Throw in 6 plugs for each too.
Nova looked up to the man, took him in. His hair was red, but shaved close to his head, hiding some of the color. His eyebrows gave it away since they stood against his very pale skin. She almost laughed at the blue in his eyes. She looked back at Brax.
You pissing away my money, Blue.
No, but that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about consumables. There's some on the ship, maybe enough, but maybe not. In any case, they're old and probably just as shitty as the parts that need replacing.
Nova turned back to the new guy.
You know something about fixing ships?
Some.
Chatty, I like that. You have a name, or can I call you Red?
Yeah.
His answer didn't faze Nova in the least.
Got a job, Red?
Yeah.
This is like pulling rats out of the heating ducts.
Brax snorted a laugh.
So what kind of job is it? Are you the station manager, accountant, or maybe a blockbuster action stream actor?
Red chuckled.
Contracting a maintenance gig.
Maintenance? You like that?
Pays my bills.
Brax and Nova shared a look.
Ever think about a change of scenery? Maybe see some different systems?
I seen a few. What are you thinking?
Mr. Brax here could use a little help around the ship.
Yeah, I could.
Standard rates?
Yes, but I give out bonuses.
Why?
Nova glanced at the counter and saw the owner had moved into the back to start prepping their order. She turned back to Red.
We do all sorts of jobs, including repossession of goods that may have been acquired through poorly documented methods.
He smirked.
So hazard pay, of a sort.
Of a sort, what makes you so interested?
You asked me.
You followed us in here. And made recommendations to my order.
Nova wagged a finger at Brax to confirm what he said rang true.
Saw you handle that kid out there. Made me curious.
So you're nosy?
Not really. More like what you done wasn't the usual thing. Struck me some way, made me want to know more.
Fair. So, here's your chance to know more. I've got some empty cabins, and Mr. Brax here has plenty of different things to keep you busy.
He considered her offer for a moment and then shrugged.
I was getting bored anyhow. Sure.
Nova clapped her hands, turned to Brax, and leaned over to give him a kiss on the lips.
Ha, I told you.
Brax sputtered a moment at her behavior.
Told me what?
We'd find some decent folks here. Get you the help you need so you can stop playing hard to get.
Hard to get?
She winked at him and turned back to her newest crew member.
My ship is the Fortune. We're leaving tomorrow, so the sooner you show up, the sooner you start earning a paycheck. If you beat us back, look for Diara. She's my mate.
Your mate.
XO, first mate.
Red nodded.
See you there, Captain. Mr. Brax.
After the man walked out of the stall, and Brax turned to Nova.
I don't even know if I like being called Mr. Brax.
You'll get used to it.
Chapter 6.
The door to Diara's cabin slid open without any warning. Diara yelped and jumped, very nearly causing herself to fall out of her bed. Nova stepped in, laughing at the woman's reaction.
You should change the code on the lock.
You should use the buzzer. What if I'd been naked?
Oh no, I've never seen tits and pussy before. I'd be scarred.
Diara frowned and repositioned herself so she was once again sitting with her back against the wall. She crossed her arms.
Also, maybe screen your recruits a little better?
Nova's grin faded. She slapped the panel to shut the door and moved to sit down at the foot of Diara's bed.
Why? Something happen?
Oh, maybe a little something. I had to pull the new girl off of Navy.
Really? Why?
Turns out she really, really hates the Navy. All military, I guess. And security. Government. Authority in general, it seems. I'm a little worried she's going to stick a knife in my throat when I sleep, honestly.
Ah, she didn't mention that bit about the Navy.
But you knew the rest?
Well, who doesn't hate security?
Diara sighed.
I asked her about taking orders from my senior crew, and she said she accepted that.
The look in her eyes, I'm not so sure.
Nova studied her.
You're serious about this, aren't you? You're really concerned.
Diara hesitated as she replayed the scene in the ship's lounge earlier.
I'm not sure.
It's your call. If you think she's no good, we can kick her off. If you think she's going to be a problem or try to hurt somebody, I don't want her.
Diara sighed.
What's she doing now?
I sent her to her quarters, but then she reached out and said she was ready to start working.
Seriously, she's been here what, an hour or two?
Almost 4. You guys were gone a while.
Nova tried an apologetic smile.
Lots of interviews, and then we had to get some supplies, stuff for repairs and then restocking the stores. Then we were hungry and needed to grab a bite.
Oh my God. You've been out drinking while I've been hiding in my cabin afraid for my life?
You have not?
Diara glared at her and then relaxed a little.
Well, maybe not quite that bad. Besides, I put her to work. I figured if she got her cabin set up so quick, she could start going through the rest of them and cleaning them out. I didn't know how many people you'd come back with.
Just 2, Bull and Red.
Who?
Bull, that's the woman you met, and Red. He hasn't shown up yet.
No. Who's he?
He's a ginger.
That's okay, so you call him Red and you call Brax and I Blue. What's he do?
Maintenance and maybe engineering.
Jetta said she can do pretty much anything. Or at least she knows how to. We'll see if she's any good at any of it.
Jida, that's Bull's name, right?
Captain of the Year.
Don't make me add black to your blue.
Diara laughed.
Yes, Captain.
Nova snorted.
Clothes worked out? Was Brax drooling over you?
Diara sighed.
I kissed him.
Diara's heart leapt in her throat.
You what?
Spur of the moment. We talked Red into joining and it just happened. A peck on the lips was all.
Oh, did he? Never mind. Not my business.
Nova ignored her sudden reluctance.
I'd hoped for more.
More? Like ripping his pants off and…
Nova swatted her knee.
None of that. I was hoping for something. Maybe not torpedo blowing bright, but at least a spark, you know?
Deara nodded.
Maybe because he wasn't expecting it. Shocked him all right, just not the right kind of shock.
There's a good kind of shock.
There is. The kind where you feel some wire you didn't know you had going from your lips to your nips. Makes you forget to breathe for a sec and tightens up your belly.
Wow, I guess I didn't know that was a thing. I've heard of toe curling kisses, but
That's later.
Deara shrugged and scooted across her bed and then stood up next to it.
sorry for your, loss. I guess.
Nova watched her and hopped up after she did.
You've never been kissed like that?
I know, not like that.
Nova's eyes narrowed.
At all?
What?
Have you been kissed at all?
Deara pulled herself up and tried like hell to fight feeling the heat in her cheeks.
Of course I've been kissed.
Fam doesn't count. Less you had a kinky relationship with your fam. I heard some of those poly arrangements are.
What? Stop. You were not like that at all. I mean, Brax and I only had each other, but it wasn't like that.
Never kissed?
Deara hesitated. Nova laughed.
You did, you dirty slut, tell me.
What? No. I wasn't we didn't it was just we didn't have anyone else. We were teenagers. We were curious. We kissed. Just, to try it. To see what it was like.
Just kissed?
Yes. Just that. No anything else.
Nova watched her, a gleam in her eye, and then finally gave up with a sigh.
You're kind of dull, Blue.
Shut up, I haven't had opportunities, that's all. What about you? How many boys have you kissed?
Nova grinned.
Lots.
I bet.
Fucked my share too.
Now who's the skank?
Nova raised her hand.
Own it, don't be ashamed.
Ashamed? Of what?
Wanting to try. Own your body, own your thoughts. Don't let no one tell you otherwise.
Deara chewed on her lip and nodded.
I try to.
Good.
Deara nodded again.
Good.
She shook her head a little and took a step toward her door. It put her next to Nova.
I'm going to check on J Bull. And see if Red showed up yet. Maybe make sure he's not prior Navy too.
Good idea.
Nova didn't move. She just stared into Deara's eyes with her own twinkling with mischief. Deara was caught in her gaze.
What?
I won't tell nobody.
Won't tell what? That I kissed my brother?
Right.
We were kids.
Just saying you can trust me, Blue. Your secret's safe.
It's not really a secret.
Anybody else know?
No.
Then you don't want nobody to. They won't hear it from me.
Deara swallowed and nodded.
Thank you.
You're my left hand. We got to trust.
Deara tried to make a joke to help with how awkward she was feeling.
Why not your right hand?
Don't think you're ready for what I do with my right hand.
What, Oh, oh my God.
Nova cackled and leaned up on her tiptoes to surprise the girl with a brush of her lips against her cheek. Then she turned and walked out of Deara's cabin on her way to her own. Deara stood still while her cabin spun around her. She reached up to where Nova's lips had touched her and felt her cheek. Had that been a spark? It had been unexpected, but everything about the pirate was like that. Her stomach was tight, and she reminded herself to breathe. That was just the surprise, though. Not anything else. Nova loved teasing her and screwing with her, even if she thought she genuinely liked her. In spite of the woman's chaotic nature, Deara couldn't help but like her too, even if she lacked a moral compass and made questionable decisions. There was something about her, something likable. Deara lowered her hand from her cheek and shook her head a final time. She took a deep breath and let it out. She really did need to check on Bull and see if Red had made it on board yet. Thinking about the captain could come later. She had a job to do.
Chapter 7.
Nova shut and locked her cabin door. She stripped off her boots and dress and stepped into her shower on autopilot. Her thoughts were racing, everything from wondering where they could get more crew to making sure the ones they had were doing the right things. Brax needed help for sure. The fortune and all of them on it depended on it. Bull might be a problem though, so maybe her first trip with them would be her last. She'd see what happened and they'd handle it. With any luck, it wouldn't be so bad they had to space her. Well, if she was talking about luck, then hopefully things turned out fine. She had a feeling about the tiny woman. It would be a shame to have to admit that she'd been wrong. Brax, clever young man, but he was the first to say he was in over his head. He might not be, but then again maybe he was. Depended on what sort of situations they ran into. Straining the ship would strain him. He'd made that clear. But she had a feeling he could handle it, even if he didn't know it. And as far as that went, what were they going to do? They needed more crew. A pirate ship with a crew of 6 wasn't much of a threat. The Fortune had twice that many when 2 kids had sneaked on board and blown the rest of them up. Maybe Red? He was tall, but tall wasn't bad. She liked tall. That kind of tall was something else, though. If she couldn't stretch up on her toes to reach him, then well, there were other things she could appreciate a tall, strong man for. Might be that's what she could use to settle her thoughts and take the edge off. Brax, for all the ways his blue eyes pulled her in, didn't have that special something she needed. Wouldn't stop her from teasing him, though. He turned so red and got so flustered it was so much fun. Problem was, it couldn't go past that. The magic wasn't there, and they'd both know it then. She stepped into the shower and let the hot water ease the tension in her scalp. She lost herself in it, living in the sensation, consciously avoiding any thoughts or feelings about a certain someone on her crew with smooth, soft cheeks and eyes that were maybe even more enchanting than Brax's.
Thank you for listening to Growing the Fortune. Remember to like and subscribe